This is Karen with NewClevelandRadio.net, and it is time for Just for the Spell of It with the one and only Gary Moss.
Hello, everybody.
You've been doing a lot of writing this week for your blogs, but a little bit different than the past.
Yeah, I guess part of it is it's hard to think of things to tell people. I don't like repeating it over and over again. And we've been doing this for a long time now.
Right.
So we've covered a lot of the pieces of the game. And just for personal interest's sake, I've taken a few diverging paths here, but I'm having fun with it. I hope the readers are having fun with it. I'm always open to getting questions that I can answer in the blogs, but I'm not getting too many requests from the audience out there. So if there is a particular thing that you want me to expand on, please let me know and I will surely do that.
Absolutely. Well, this morning I found it interesting. I looked at the title first about missing the bus, and I thought, when was the last time I was on a bus? But then I realized that, it was a segue into, when have you missed something that you really wanted to do? And,
Right.
I loved it. I love that you brought in lyrics from a song that I think most people, when they read it, they're going to say, I sort of remember that, just don't know when I heard it the last time.
Well, I think the first two were from the song, but then I made up a lot just to rhyme some words together. And if the people listening to this find that they enjoy that, what is a lot of fun, and I did have a lot of fun creating those rhymes and trying to send the message. So that's one of a lot of times people tell me that they don't want to go forward with studying. Studying implies some form of drudgery.
Right.
And so there are so many other ways to learn words that you can use in Scrabble. And that's one of the ways that I tried to point out, or I used it. And you can parrot me on that and do your own version. But it was a lot of fun. And where normally I'll take maybe 30 minutes to write a blog, I think I just hung around with that for an hour and a half. And trying to rhyme to get your message across, it made me spend a lot of time looking back to the dictionary. And I actually, if I thought about it, I'm thinking about it right now. Our father loved to rhyme.
Right.
And he had a rhyming dictionary.
I didn't even know that.
Oh, yeah. And I have it around here somewhere. I used it a lot during maybe the year after he passed. And then went on to other things, and it got buried somewhere around here. And maybe a lot of people don't know that there are rhyming dictionaries, but there are. And there's a lot of fun and a lot of learning that can take place in using them.
Well, one of these days I'm going to have a long talk with him up in the heavens, because he used to tease me that you and Joel got his talent of writing and rhyming, and I couldn't even rhyme moon and spoon. So now I know the secret. He had a dictionary.
He did. And our grandfather, our father's father, also was a miraculous rhymer. And I think he developed that when he was writing poetry for the Toledo Blade, the newspaper. And he was their poet laureate for many years. So it's natural that you and I and Joel all have that ability. It's sort of in the genes somewhere.
Okay.
And I had a lot of fun with it this week.
Well, I had a lot of fun reading it. So I hope everybody who's listening, they'll go to justforthespellofit.com. And I enjoy being able to illustrate them as well, getting your message across, because I know sometimes people, they see the words on the page and it's too much to read. But when you break it up with a little illustration, it makes it a little bit easier and more fun.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to talk about definitions today, and I'm glad you're going to do that, because I was playing online Scrabble with somebody this past week, and I remembered the spelling of a couple of words that we've talked about on the show, but I was just lucky enough to have the letters and I could place it. And they challenged me, but I proved them wrong. And that was exciting to me, except when they said to me, you shouldn't play a word that you don't know what it means.
Mm-hmm.
I asked them to show me that rule in Scrabble.
Yeah.
Is
Well,
there a rule?
No, there is no rule in Scrabble regarding the meaning of the word. Now, when I talk to teachers about the value of teaching Scrabble in school, I suggest they create that rule when they're using Scrabble. And then I show them how to use Scrabble. Let's say you're a history teacher. Well, you might make up a separate vocabulary list each week or each month as you go to a new chapter, and create the vocabulary list around what you're teaching.
Sure.
So the words that you're going to put on your vocabulary list, many of them are in the Scrabble dictionary. We know that proper names are not in the Scrabble dictionary, except if they have a second meaning, like Abigail. Did you know that Abigail, besides being a girl's name, has a second meaning?
I have no idea.
Yeah, I'd have to look it up, but one of the things that I've done in the past is I made a list of all the common names for boys and girls that have a second meaning, like John, John,
Okay.
and a bathroom might
Right.
be a John. Or, well, I know Maria is in the dictionary. I can't think offhand the definition. The word Sue, S-U-E,
Right.
and the name Sue. So there are a lot of words like that. Jack, J-A-C-K, and you have a jack in your car.
Mm-hmm.
So if I were a history teacher and I wanted to use Scrabble in my presentation to the class, I would have this separate list. And then when we played the game, you would get a premium number, maybe 50 points, maybe 25 points, if you played one of the words off of the vocabulary list.
Okay.
And so as the kids are playing, they're going to keep referring back to that list, and you can have that list as an open list. And they try to figure out how to play those words
Sure.
in the game. And you can do that for any class. You could do it for a biology class. you definitely could do it for your spelling class.
Right.
Um, so when I've talked about that while talking to teachers, and I have talked to small groups, uh, a number of them, their jaw will drop and they'll say, wow, that's the greatest idea. Well, the ideas that I come up with are because I was a teacher. And I still am a teacher because I teach my online class,
Right.
Scrabble 101. And my job as a teacher is to bring it to you in a way that it makes you light up. And so I have to think about 2, 3, 4, a dozen different ways to bring things to the audience, because any one thing will make, it might make the teacher light up, but somebody else sitting there, it goes over their head or they don't pay much attention. But as soon as you can identify how you personally can use that method, it works. Now, something you just said a couple minutes ago about the person who says you can't play a word unless you know what it means. Just think if that was a prerequisite for playing the game, just think how boring it would be, the game would be. Because, as I've pointed out many times, the average person only knows 5% of the words in the dictionary. And so, uh, left on to their own devices, most people are not going to look up and expand
Right.
their knowledge on their own.
Right.
Um, I'm aware of that, and I've had many people tell me that, especially the people who are new to. They sort of hear, oh, there's a Scrabble club, and they show up and they tell me that they're the best Scrabble player ever. Well, they are in their circle. They're the best in their family, or the best among their set of friends, or the best on the block. But they've been playing kitchen table Scrabble, which basically is people playing the words that they know. Most of these people, like, they'll come in and I'll say, do you know all the 2-letter words? And they'll say, well, sure, I know all the 2-letter words. I'll ask them, do you know how many of them there are? And, oh, probably about 25 or 30. And then I'll say, no, there's 107. And they'll look at me like I'm nuts. And I said, well, there are a lot of words that you don't know. So I'll give them an example and I'll say, do you know the word XU? And they'll say to me, that's not a word. And I'll say, well, it is in our dictionary and it has a definition. So I have to be careful to pick words where I know the meaning
Right.
when I'm having this exchange. And XU is a monetary unit from Vietnam. And I'm not even sure how the Vietnamese pronounce that. I would imagine the X sounds like a Z and it would be zoo. So I sort of tell them what I think it would be.
Sure.
And I said, you really need to refer to a dictionary. And even though I've been playing competitive Scrabble for more than 30 years, I consult the dictionary every day because there are many words, there are words that I've been using for years.
Sure.
And maybe I knew what it meant sometime, but because I don't use it in my everyday language, if I don't put it down on the board for 5 years, 10
You're
years,
going to forget it.
sure,
Yep.
we forget it. And just think about this. How many turns do you think each player has in an average game?
Maybe 12 each?
A little bit more than that. I find it's closer to 17.
Okay.
But whether it's 12, it would be 12 if you're all playing longer words.
Okay.
So you're using up the tiles faster. But the average is about 17 turns per game. So let's say you go to a club once a week, and most clubs will play 4 games. So you're going to be playing 68 words,
Right.
assuming every word you play is different.
Right.
But that's not true either, because there are certain words like XU and other words that with the X or the Q, QI, that you'll play game after game because it's in your memory and it gives a lot of points. So the point I'm making, let's say you play as many as 60 different words on a given night. Well, 60 different words, how long would it take you to play everything in the dictionary? There's 175,000 words. So it would take you 3,000 weeks. And 3,000 weeks would be 60 years.
Your whole life.
So your whole lifetime if you were trying to play every single word in the dictionary.
Sure.
And the normal thing we see is people playing some of the same words, their favorite words. They learn these, let's say you learn the satine stem. So there are about 70 different bingos in this one stem. And so you've learned them, you get that combination of letters, and you can play these high words. So you're going to try to become a master of that stem. So in doing that, by not going any further and learning the others, you're sort of limiting yourself to what you really know, what you're an expert at. And a lot of people do that. So the person who asks me, what do the words mean? They'll tell me out flat, I can't learn a word if I don't know what it means. Well, there's no rule that says you can't learn what it means. You're definitely able to do that. But think about this. How much time a day will you devote to studying Scrabble? And they'll tell me I'm a busy person. I don't have a whole lot of time. Maybe I can devote 15 minutes. Okay, well, whatever amount of time it is that you take, even if it's only 5 minutes a day, if you can organize yourself so you don't waste part of the 5 minutes by pulling out your dictionary or waiting for your computer to come up or whatever version you want to do. If you make that 5 minutes the most efficient 5 minutes, that's better than 0 minutes.
Absolutely. And that,
And
you know, what you're teaching people with Scrabble, and I think I've mentioned this before, has helped me in this part-time job that I've taken on the weekend. We have so much training we have to do a month. It's about an hour's worth of training. And when I first started doing it about 2 years ago, you know, to me it was drudgery, and it didn't take me an hour. It took me 3 or 4 days in segments to do the training. I now have learned that this spaced repetition that you've talked about works for me. And so instead of waiting for that training to appear on my report saying I have to do it, every day I go in and I take one or two trainings. And if I don't really think I've grasped it, I don't, get myself all upset about, I didn't remember it all. I'll write down what I do remember. And I'll go back a day or two later and take the training again and look for the things that I've missed.
Mm-hmm.
And
Excellent.
it is such a good feeling because I've turned it into a game for myself rather than say, oh my gosh, I have an hour of training I've got to take, and sitting down and trying to get it all done at one time and then not understanding a word of what I've done. So
Mm-hmm.
the same thing that I think people are hearing in your blogs and in our podcast is when you make it fun, you can learn.
Mm-hmm. Sorry about that noise in the background. I don't know how to turn that sound off. My phone is turned off, but these are people that are leaving messages
Okay.
about the election.
Oh.
And
okay.
they have some device to override the phone being off.
Interesting.
And it comes on frequently and says, you have a message from, and it gives the phone number. And so it's always the same phone number. And I'm not sure if it's Trump or Biden. One of them is being very diligent.
Yeah. I don't expect that either.
Getting back to the idea of knowing the words. Well, I've been very aware over the years as people have said that to me, what you can't play the word if you don't know what it means. So for whatever reason, I never really understand why I pick a particular project to do. But this week, I did a project relating to definitions.
Okay.
And if somebody really is interested in learning what some of the Scrabble words mean, I obviously, if I did all of the words, I mean, you have a dictionary, so you can figure it out. But let's say a word is played. Let's say a word is played and I challenged it. My opponent played a word. I didn't know it. I challenged it. And we, in club, we walk up into the computer and the challenger types in the word that was played by the opponent. The opponent checks to see that I've typed it in correctly. And the program that's in there, when I hit return, or actually I hit tab, the computer says the word is acceptable, or it says the word is not acceptable.
Okay.
Okay. So now let's say the word was acceptable. And it doesn't tell me what it means. It doesn't give me any hints what part of speech it is. It just tells me the word is acceptable. The first thing I do when I go back to sit down in my chair is on a piece of paper, I write that word down. Because if I don't take the time to check out what it means, I don't know if I can add an S, if I can add ing,
Makes
if
sense.
I can add any letter as a hook on the front or the back. And sometimes, if you're a smart player, you not only play a word that will stump your opponent, but you might play a word where you know the hooks and you're hoping your opponent doesn't know the hook. So on the next turn, you can play another word hooking onto this first word. So I always write it down, and then after the game is over, or maybe not even till the next day. I'll look it up, and if I think I'd really want to use that word to play against somebody else, I don't just write it down one time and look it up. I'll put it on a flashcard,
Right.
and I'll put the flashcard in my set of flashcards. And so when something's in my set of flashcards, I know that I will review them at least once a week, sometimes more often. You have to use the things you want to remember. You can't just write it down one time, look it up one time, and expect your memory to just take it in and absorb it. Maybe some people can, but most people can't do
Right.
it that way. So back to what I was doing this week. I decided to create a booklet and put it in the form of a game. And the booklet has 28 puzzles in it.
Okay.
These are matching puzzles. So each puzzle has two columns, column A and column B. Column A has 14 different words that are in the Scrabble dictionary. Column B has 14 definitions of these words, but they're not right across from one another. They're sort of jumbled up. So to give you an example, this isn't going to be easy, but I'll do it like a multiple choice here.
Okay.
The word bourgeois, Bushwa,
Okay.
is bourgeois a navel, a curved molding, or nonsense?
Bushwa. So nonsense, curve molding, and what was the first one?
A navel, a belly button.
A navel. I'm gonna say it's the molding.
Okay, it's nonsense.
Of course it is.
Yeah, of course it is. So that's the weird thing. Now, after I finished making up these 30 puzzles, I had fun looking up these things, the words.
Sure.
And because the definitions are not something that bugs me, okay? One of these other people who say, I can't learn a word without knowing the definition. Number one, that is not true. That is a habit. And you can establish new habits. So if you're someone new and you're coming to play in a Scrabble club, you are going to be the busiest person of all, because in Scrabble clubs, a lot of Scrabble jargon, these words that are not commonly used. When was the last time anyone said bourgeois to you? All right.
I don't think ever.
Yeah, right. So you'll have to learn, if you're one of these people, you'll have to learn the word and the definition. Other people come in and just learn the word.
Right.
And but I'm not going to go thumbs down against the people who need the definition. If that's your way of doing it, fine.
Yeah.
And I'll show you how to use the flashcards and use spaced repetition so that you can put bourgeois in your memory and know that it's nonsense. But after I did all these 28 puzzles, I looked back, and I would say 90% of the people I know who plays Scrabble would not be able to do these puzzles initially. They would look at it and they wouldn't know at all what these are. Here's one. Let's see, 6. Umbilici. Umbilici. 3 I's and a U. Umbilici.
Well, my first reaction would be it has to do with the umbilical cord, but probably
Okay.
doesn't.
No, it does.
Oh, it does. Oh,
It
okay.
does. And it is a navel.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. So good. You got that. Page 2. I maybe just discovered a mistake on my.
Oh my gosh.
And I try very, very hard not to make mistakes here. 6B. Well, I'll have to go back later and do this
Okay.
here.
Okay.
Here's one, and this is a fun word. Fig eater. Fig eater.
Fig eater.
Uh-huh.
Well, I could say the definition is Richard Hale because he's a fig
Okay.
eater.
Okay. That might be very helpful because we've said the word, you've made an association,
Right.
and that might help you see it when it shows up.
Absolutely.
But fig eater is a beetle.
Oh.
And
Oh,
that's
I was almost thinking that maybe it was some sort of an insect, but
yeah, it is.
yeah, so that makes sense.
Okay. Well, you know what a czar is? A czar,
Yeah, they're from Russia. They were
a leader.
nasty leaders.
And so what is a czarevna?
A czar.
Tsar, EVNA.
Isn't it a daughter of a czar?
I will tell you. 13F is a daughter of a czar. Good for
Wow.
you. So I put in some of the words so that hopefully of the 14 on the page, there will be at least 2 or 3 that you will, so you'll have some sense of confidence.
Sure.
And, but there are people who don't know what a czarevna is.
Sure.
So even though this is a match puzzle, I think most people are going to have to do the puzzle with their dictionary.
Okay.
And if they find the words appealing, some words are appealing in terms of they draw you to them.
Sure.
So those words they're going to put down on flashcards or on a list and make a bigger attempt to learn them. So here's another word. OXALIX. Oxalis. Who knew?
Wow. Oxalis. Have
Yeah.
no.
I'll give you a choice.
Okay.
Fermentation, a flowering plant, mussels.
I'm going to go with the flowering plant.
That's right. That is right.
And some of these by process of elimination,
Yeah.
you're going to know. or the sound of it. Um, if you're into botany at all, you're going to know there's going to be certain sounds as well. Um,
Which leads me to an interesting story. Um, we had a young woman, probably in her early 20s, who sort of stumbled into the Scrabble Club. And she had only played with friends and neighbors. She never played in a club before. And we told her and prompted her on how to play the game and everything. And on that first night, during the second game, she played Zelkova, Zelkova, Zelkova. It got challenged.
but it was a real word, right?
It was in our dictionary. Zelkova is some kind of flower or
Okay.
plant. We were all totally amazed. How would this person know that word, have that word? Now, if it's in the dictionary, it's more common, even though it's an unusual word. It's probably more common than other flowering plants or flowers. Um, and afterwards, we all ran up to her. How did you, where did that come from? Turns out she just recently graduated college. She's a botanist.
Okay. Yeah.
So she knew Zelkova and she saw it. I mean, just think of those letters together on your rack. You'd probably play off the Z, something like that, because Z has a high value. But she played a bingo, Zelkova.
Wow.
Well, do you know what that did? We saw Zelkova. We heard the story about how she knew the word, and we were all so amazed. It went zap into my
Sure.
head and into the head of several people. Do you know that I've played Zelkova 2 or 3 times over the years? And each time I've played it against a uh, uh, against an opponent who didn't expect that kind of a word from
From
me,
you.
each
Exactly.
time it's been challenged.
I love it.
And yeah, so that's another way that we learn words. They make such an impact on us when they're played, we learn them.
Well, people shouldn't, I just want to tell people that if you have a mother like we did, you didn't really want to play Scrabble with her because she, and I know she knew how to spell, that wasn't the problem, but she would spell out words that were Yiddish sounding because she
Okay.
used them all the time. And she would think that, well, it's a word, but they weren't acceptable words. And it would just we'd just sit there and make, laugh. Um, and I know other people that I've been playing with recently too, almost do the same thing. They
Mhm.
they say a word a certain way, and so
Right.
that's how they envision it in their head, and then they put it down on the board, and um, it's not a word. So
Well, that happens. And in the game of Scrabble, the way we play it in club, you have to know the words and you also have to know what's not in the dictionary. One of the stories I tell up until around the year 2004. I think in 2004, the fifth edition of the Scrabble dictionary came out. So going up to and including the fourth edition, the word redial, Redial, like redialing a phone number, redial was not in the Scrabble dictionary through, I believe, the fourth edition, even though it was on the telephone. In fact, there used to be a button
Sure.
on the phone that you would hit to redial.
Right.
And right on the button, it said redial. So anyways, a number of people petitioned the word committee. And in the fifth edition, all of a sudden, redial was there. So you have to know what's in the dictionary. You have to know what's not in the dictionary, even though the word made sense.
Sure.
Because a lot of times before it was in the dictionary, I learned that it was no good. So somebody would play redial thinking that it was, or they would actually play redials with an S for a bingo.
For bingo. Yep.
And then I would say challenge, and they would look, what's wrong with that? And we'd go look it up, and it wasn't there. And then a couple of years later, it was included. There have been some words that have been added, deleted, and re-added. The simple two-letter word DA. In the original lists, DA was there. And then for some reason, around edition number 3, it was taken away. And it wasn't there. And then in edition 5, it came back again. They do, the word committee does publish a list of the new words. They're not new words, but they're newly added to the list.
Sure.
Each time a change takes place. And that happens. Now, you talked about Yiddish words. There must have been a couple Jewish people, at least, on the committee that made up the original list of words.
Okay.
Because in the dictionary, there still exists 900 Yiddish words.
Oh, really?
There are Muslim words. There are East Indian words. There are Native American words. There are words that come from French. There are words that come from Latin. There are words that come from Russia, and probably a whole lot of other words that I know they're words, but I have no idea where they came from. Now, the words don't have to be long words like Zelkova. Here's a 4-letter word that's worth remembering: ECHT. ECHT. I don't even know how to pronounce it.
Yeah, I wouldn't there.
Echt, or etch. Well, it's not etch because the C come before the T. ECHT.
Huh. I'm going to look that up.
Yeah, the definition in the Scrabble dictionary says genuine. Now, I've never heard that word used. I actually never saw it.
Yep. Means true or genuine.
Yeah. I never saw it played in a Scrabble game, but I bet I would, it would get challenged if I played it.
Oh, I'm sure it would.
Now, the only time, let's say my opponent played it against me, I would look and see how many points they earned on it. If they didn't earn a lot of points, I might not challenge it, even though I didn't know what it meant, because you're taking a chance. Let them earn a few points for this word, or maybe you'll lose the challenge.
Right. Right.
So you have to consider the consequences if you're wrong. But it certainly would confuse someone if you played ECHT.
And this just proves your point about it, words coming from other languages, because this one says it comes from the German and Yiddish.
Okay.
So, and in Yiddish, it would be EKHT. In German, it's CHT. So,
Okay.
so change the C to a K.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I when I see a word like that, I try to figure out how I would pronounce it, even though it might not be the correct pronunciation, because I'm using it as a tool.
Right.
So I want to be able to recall it. So I would figure out a way that I might say that. So I could use it in the future.
Absolutely.
Another word that I've played many times and I never taken the time to look up what it means. And this is a good dump for eyes.
Okay.
IMPI. And I
Imp-
call it impy. IMPI.
So it has to do with being impish.
Could be.
Yep, mischievous, impish. Um, so an impy little kid.
Does it say there the word warriors?
Um, not in not in the Webster Merriam-Webster dictionary online.
Okay, I think in the Scrabble dictionary it it says warriors.
Okay.
Um, that's something else we should point out here is words might have multiple meanings. The Scrabble dictionary use only gives one definition normally.
Okay.
And so you might find uh, things defined differently in different dictionaries.
Well, you know what I found interesting about this? Now, looking up the word impy, IMPI,
Yeah,
hopefully I'm going to remember that. But when I look at the synonyms, okay, there's certain ones that are like jumping out at me. And
yeah.
I look at it and I go, well, I've had letters like that on my board. So
Hmm.
that's another good way to increase your vocabulary. You find that one odd word and
Hmm.
then go find the different synonyms. Um, so all different ways of learning words and getting better scores playing Scrabble.
Yeah. Doing this kind of an exercise um, is not the most efficient way to learn words. We're learning them one word at a time. Doesn't mean that it's not valuable because a lot of times your rack is plagued with eyes. So if you know impy, it might be available to play. It might be something that your opponent might challenge because they might not know it. I didn't look it up, but if you still have it on your
Yeah, I
computer there, does it take an S at the end?
do.
Is it a noun?
It does not take an S. It takes an SH,
Oh, impish. All
impish.
right. All right. Got it. Okay. So that's something else that you might want to look at if you're doing this process word by word by word. and it's one more thing to remember. And if I was putting it on a flashcard, on the back side, I would make a note of the front hook or the back hook
Right.
to that word. So when I was going through the cards and doing my review, I would keep that in mind, because that would be a perfect play if you know it doesn't take just the S,
Right. Exactly.
because you put it down, you bring it right up to a triple word score line, and you're inviting your opponent
To
to
add the S.
come down there and put an S there. And you sit there straight faced while they do it. And once they hit their clock and it's your turn, you say challenge.
Yeah.
And they lose their great score.
Well, it's interesting because as you and I have been playing words with friends online, you've had some very unusual words for me this week. Um,
Mhm.
and I can't tell you how I've tried to put front and end hooks on all of them, and
Yeah,
none of them take them.
yeah.
And I have written those words down so that,
Mhm.
and it's on a 3x5 card. These don't take hooks. Now, playing words with friends, I use cheat cards because I want to use the new words that I'm learning if I can, or not make the mistakes, trying to
Mhm.
add hooks onto things.
Yeah.
Um, so you've really been challenging me this week, and beating me as well. But hey, what do I expect?
Um, I want to leave everyone with the information that if you think this would be helpful to you, I have, oh, I should probably publish it somewhere. And on our website, there is a place where I list items that I have for sale, booklets with these vocabulary words. I have two booklets like that. The booklets generally sell for about $12 each. Um, and I have booklets that feature um, hooks. I have booklets that feature jumbles by category, a jumble with animals, a jumble with clothing, apparel. Uh, so if you want any of those, it's the kind of thing that if you set aside a little time for yourself each day, you'll be amazed how it's going to build your vocabulary and the way you think about and the way you play the game of Scrabble.
Absolutely. Well, I know the one nice thing that you also create, Gary, is name plaques. And number one, with the holidays coming up, those are great. But what I also like about it, you made one for Alex, and it's on his wall in his room. And every once in a while, when I feel like I'm stuck using the same words over and over again, I'll go in and I'll write down some of the words from his name,
Yeah,
and I try to play them. So, if you have a word plaque that Gary makes, that's a great way to learn some of those words and also look up the definitions.
yeah. I'm very proud of that name plaque. I created the first one in the early 90s. I've probably done as many as 500, 600 word plaques. And I've seen them in people's offices. It's a great conversation piece
Absolutely.
if you have it on a coffee table. And what it is I find 60 to 75 of the highest scoring words made only from the letters in your name. So each one is personalized, individualized. Those sell for $29 plus shipping handling. comes out to be about $35. I've made them for newborns. I've made them for birthdays. Um, they're really great. And so I'll be making those up for any special orders. And for any of these things that you want, contact me at my email, jftsoi.moss@gmail.com.
Well, again, it's been a nice Friday afternoon having a conversation with my oldest brother. Um, and we're not telling ages right now, but he is older than I.
I'm
And
feeling very old today.
oh, no, no, no. But before we go, any chance that things are going to start opening up in California in the near future? Any word?
I'm afraid not. No,
Okay.
I think we're still in for a long, dark winter, unfortunately. Um, but there's no signs. They're trying to open up the economy with certain provisions, but I don't see it happening for Scrabble
Okay. Well,
because we can't play six
well,
feet apart.
that's true. But you can play online, so we encourage you all to do that. And contact Gary, and he has puzzles and other things that will keep you occupied and keep your brain getting more and more knowledge. So
Yep.
stay safe, and we'll talk to you all soon.
Bye.
Bye.